I feel like maybe just focus on the roles of each other.
The many roles,
or of a mom.
Focus on the fact that, you know what, it doesn't have to be perfection. It doesn't, you know.
Perfection doesn't exist.
We go out, we get ways to cope with things.
Yeah, exactly.
We talk or we don't feel like waking up early and getting our kids ready, or sometimes.
Amen, sister. Preach. Hey, beautiful mamas. Welcome back to another episode of Mom on a Mission, No Apologies. I'm your host, Karla Rivera. And today's episode is a little different in the best way possible. So here's the thing. We originally planned to do an episode on Women's History Month. However, things took a little turn. And you know what? We kept it real. Real as possible. I had my sister Xotchil as my guest, and my sister Ariana was in the room as well. Originally, she was not supposed to be on the episode, but she couldn't help herself, but it worked out in the end. And before we knew it, the conversation took its turn of its own. And here's the kicker. I didn't even realize that my producer was recording at that very moment. So what you're about to hear is as raw and unfiltered as it gets. No polished intros, no scripted moments, just real conversation between us sisters. So if you're here from some unfiltered sister talk, unexpected but meaningful moments, and a whole lot of authenticity, you're in the right place. This is a mom on a mission, no apologies. And trust me, there is no apologies on this one. So let's get into it.
I like said card, Ariana.
Because I'm perfect.
Yeah, because you have cancer.
No, but you know,
come over here.
Good. Like, I don't know if that would, maybe it wouldn't relate to this one, but like when I talk about Rio, remember how I told you guys, like when Alexander was little, there's times that he would go to his dad's house and he comes home, and to be honest with you, I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy to have him come home. It was so overwhelming. I had to
it was draining.
You know what I mean? I had to prepare myself to be like, okay, here.
Why do you think I'm excited to go on vacation?
What did I use as a coping mechanism?
Go out.
I would get drunk. I would have fun. I would go out dancing. That was
your self-care.
To cope with like the chaos that was going on.
Okay, I think I have an idea. Let's go with this, and then we'll see how it goes.
What she's saying, Ariana, this is like perfect.
Yeah.
This is your spot right here.
But like of the everyday life.
No, because
So what is Women's History Month to you?
In this?
Yeah, but you could relate to it.
You also went out. What are you talking about, Willis?
I can't relate to, having
I could relate to that. Okay, I could relate to that. You could relate with starting all over and giving yourself up. I'll keep it real with you. You really gave yourself up to raise your family. You really had to find yourself again.
Gained weight.
Okay, so that's it. But you really had to find yourself again as your kind of like identity, and that's kind of part of also woman.
You lose your identity.
Yes, you lose your. That's huge. Every woman does.
You lose your identity, and not only that, but you.
Is that kind of with Women's History Month, or we'll make our own?
Good. I mean, I'm
okay. Okay. So okay. What is Women's History Month? Okay.
Just talk.
So Women's History Month is
We're not so much going to focus on Women's History Month. You're just doing. It is Women's History Month, and you're doing an episode on the importance of a woman's role, right? But it's not so much that we're going to focus on that. You can say the facts, but I feel like maybe just focus on the roles of each other,
the many roles,
of a mom.
Focus on the fact that, you know what, it doesn't have to be perfection. It doesn't,
perfection doesn't exist.
We go out, we get ways to cope with things.
Exactly.
We talk shit, or we don't feel like waking up early and getting our kids ready, or sometimes.
Amen, sister. Preach.
So I just give them cereal because I feel like cooking.
Yeah.
It's not something that you do all of the time.
Yes.
But it's natural.
And it's okay.
And
it's okay to sometimes say, like, if I can go back to when I was 20, 21, just for one day, just for 1 hour, that doesn't make you a bad mom.
No, it makes you human.
It just makes you just be yourself. I think you're not so much saying you want to go back because you don't want to have those kids with you. It's just saying you want to go back and feel what it was
exactly
to be you.
Yeah.
before being a mom?
Because you grieve yourself. That's what I tell Christian, actually. Like, and he thinks it's weird sometimes because he's like, but I mean, obviously not to be messed up, but the role of a dad and the role of a mom is very different. So I'm like, yeah, I do grieve myself. I do grieve, like, just taking care of myself. I do grieve just worrying about myself sometimes and not, pouring into everyone's cups. Like, also just, having the time, the whole time in a day, and being able to say, like, oh, I have time to go to the gym at whatever time I want to.
I have time to drink a glass of wine.
A glass of wine at whatever time. I have time to eat dinner peacefully. So, yeah, you do grieve yourself, or your old self, I should say. And that's perfectly normal.
What is your story?
Well, sometimes, I mean, when you guys talk about grieving, sometimes I hear stories of people, like, I see, for example, my sister-in-law, she goes to the gym, she comes home, and she's able to spend 2 hours at the gym, and I just, I literally just watch her and think, like, I wonder what that feels like. I've been a mom for 15 years. I don't remember what it feels like to be able to just do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. Whatever you want, have
that freedom.
Wherever you want, not have anybody in the back of your mind. Not that I'm complaining, because I wouldn't change it for anything. I wouldn't change it for absolutely anything. But it does. I think more also when your kids are smaller, right? So I'm starting over again. I have a 3-year-old. And at that point, like, you do feel, like you mentioned, I've completely lost myself and the identity of being a mom, which I love. I love doing it. But it is a little overwhelming when you don't have time. You're being pulled in, like, a million different directions, especially when your kids are different age groups. You have a 3-year-old and you have teenagers. So at this point, where do you take them? Do you take them to activities, for little kids, for older kids? What kind of things do you do as a family? My little one doesn't want to eat what the older ones do, doesn't want to eat what my husband does. So at that point, you're having to cook 3 different meals. Like, it's just so much, and you get pulled in so many different directions.
Yeah.
And then trying to squeeze in some self-care too.
Exactly.
As a child.
And having, trying to also squeeze, time with your partner and whatnot, not feeling guilty in that, trying to pour into everyone's cups.
And I think these are all topics that all moms can relate to, because everybody goes through this kind of, like, what do you call them? Like, guilt, feelings, emotions. They're just all over. Like, you feel all kinds of emotions. So there's times where you're happy. Because I find myself sometimes where you're, like, super happy, and then all of a sudden, like, not so much that you're sad, but you're like you feel like, oh, am I doing something right or wrong? But I don't know. You
feel irritable. That's why I feel
confused sometimes. I think confusion is normal too.
Yeah, I feel irritable, and you feel bad for feeling that way, because I don't feel like hanging out with my kids. Sometimes, like, there's times, depending on, what you're going through, or, like, right now, if I'm on medication, I feel irritable, and I don't feel like yesterday, I don't feel like taking care of my daughter. I don't feel like it, and I'm fortunate that he helps, but, or that he takes over, but you can't feel guilty for that. It's normal. It comes in waves, it comes and goes, and it doesn't make you a bad mom, or it doesn't. I've learned to accept that. I learned to accept that a long time ago, that just because I don't feel like taking care of my kid today, or just because I'm not in the mood of making a 3-hour dinner, doesn't mean I'm a bad mom. And I've completely accepted that. But I have to go through a lot of challenges with a child with special needs to really understand that and get to that point where, you know what, F what everybody says. Like,
exactly.
I need to keep myself afloat, keep my family afloat, and just basically, be happy in our situation. And that may not be what someone, maybe other people don't feel that way, or maybe someone else doesn't. Like, maybe that's not the way they run their household, but it works for me, and my kids are happy, and I'm happy, everyone's happy, so.
And that's where you get through it. That, unfortunately, a lot of times women judge each other.
And it's
Instead
also
of supporting and uniting, we judge each other, and it's like, oh, well, she's doing this, she's not doing that right. Or because, like you said, what works in your household might not work in mine, might not work in yours, but I do might not work. It's everybody runs their house how it works for them.
And it's also like the generational thing. Like, sometimes talking to, like older women, they're kind of like, this is part of our role. And it's like, if you're venting out or feeling or expressing, it's like, oh, well, you're fortunate because I'll keep it real with me. I'm a stay-at-home mom. Okay, should I be like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to wash those dishes, every day? Like, no, like, yes, I'm blessed to be at home. Yes, my husband is able to provide for us financially, but that also comes with a lot of struggles. You know what I mean? Like, on my end. Obviously, he sacrifices. Obviously, I also do sacrifices. And the thing is that it's so engraved. Like, it's like, oh no, you can't express, or you can't, vent out because you're able to stay at home, quote unquote. And
you got to keep it together.
Yeah, and you have to keep it together, and you always have to remember, oh, you're blessed to stay at home. A lot of women would want to stay at home. Well, no, because I've talked to plenty of women, and sometimes they would not want to stay at home.
Is a full-time job.
It's more than a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that you also have to separate, right? You have to put it into different departments. There's one thing, okay, yes, I agree. I'm very grateful that I stay at home. Mm-hmm. I'm very grateful. I work from home. I'm extremely grateful. Does that mean I'm never going to complain? No.
No, that's unrealistic.
I'm going to complain. That's completely normal. But it doesn't mean that you're not grateful for the hand that you've been given.
So this is where we're also like reminded we have to be, how we talk about uplifting. We have to be there for one another, understand, empathize with each other's struggles. Us three, we can be in different chapters. We can be, how you said, in different phases, and the thing is that we have to try to understand one another, because at the end of the day, we're all trying to do this mom thing, and the thing is that no one knows the right answer. Como dices tú, it might work for you, it might not work for you, it might work for me. But the thing is, it's nice to just be there and support one each other and hear each other out, how you're feeling.
And unite with each other, because a lot of times
unity is huge.
As a mom, like, you are so into your role that you don't dig in there to know that there's strengths in there's abilities that you might not know, and somebody else can point them out.
Like starting a podcast, like, that's huge. So the thing is, like, I think with this experience, like, what I've learned is, like, there's never a right timing. You're always going to doubt yourself. Me, I was so focused as my role as a mom, like, okay, I don't have a job. Like, my thing is, like, what's something that could, like, bring back passion? Like, obviously I'm happy with my kids. I'm very blessed with my husband. But the thing is, okay, what's something that's going to make Karla passionate again? And it's like this podcast, relating with other women, connecting with other women, just being supportive with one another.
Sharing your story, sharing your story, other women are going to be like, oh, I know exactly what she feels. Mm-hmm. I feel that, and that is like, maybe they don't hear it because maybe they have that lack of support at home, or they have that parent or that friend that's telling them or judging them or criticizing them. Mm-hmm. So once they hear it from someone else, and they say oh, that's how I feel, so it's okay to feel like that. Yeah. And then they start recognizing it's okay. I don't have to feel guilt. I don't have to apologize. Yeah. And at the end of the day, there's no such thing as a perfect mom. Mm-mm. I think that's, whoever says I'm a perfect mom, there's no such thing as a perfect mom.
Exactly.
And there's always this, like, oh, just because you're giving your kids all these like quantity things, or like expensive gifts or whatever, that doesn't make you a perfect mom. Like, in your case, you might not be buying them expensive things, but you're giving them the quality because you have that opportunity to be at home with them.
Yeah.
And so you're providing them with that quality time, because they grow up fast.
They do. Yeah.
So I think that would be a good like episode, no?
We've been recording this whole time.
Oh, and are you serious?
I think I do.
You're recording the whole time?
Maybe you should just get ideas for
I thought that was like a good little.
That was a good one. Yeah.
That was a little good episode right there.
It's more natural.
Yeah, that's
I thought we were gonna flow and then you were gonna record.
That was the flow.
There's no. But when you know that we're being recorded, we are.
Exactly. You start talking like the script.
And we're gonna start like looking and like.
Well, mamas, that was definitely not the conversation that we had planned. But honestly, I wouldn't have had it any other way. This episode was raw, unfiltered, and exactly the real talk that I like having on Mom on a Mission, No Apologies. Big shout out to my sister Xotchil for joining me today on this episode, and to my sister Ariana that couldn't help but jumping into the conversation as well. Sometimes the best conversations happen when you least expect them, and I'm so glad that without knowing, we let this one flow naturally. If this episode resonated with you, go ahead and share it with another mama who needs that real talk in her life. And of course, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and let me know what you think. Because as I had mentioned, this podcast is all about having that space where you can talk openly, without judgment, and support each other through motherhood with the ups and downs that comes along with it. All right, until next time, keep on showing up, keep being unapologetically you, and remember, we're all in this mission together. See you in the next episode.